friendship that'll never ever end.
Run!
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Reaction Beanie Yo for 168. That in that neighborhood. My brothers and sisters, I am very excited for this weekend, y'all, because I don't think that I ever spoke about this over here on our channel, but I am a WWE fan, man. And this weekend, it is time for WrestleMania. It is WrestleMania time, y'all. And for y'all that don't know, WrestleMania is like the Super Bowl of the WWE. You know what I'm saying? It is like the NBA Finals or the World Series. So I'm just hyped. I'm excited to get into that this weekend. And I'm also excited for today, because today is Friday. So y'all know who we're about to go back to? Adrian from Coffeehouse Crime. The Coffee Man Fridays, y'all. Hope y'all doing excelente out there today. And I'm glad that you came on back to the channel once again to fuck with the bean. And the title of the video is Depraved Killer Caught on Camera. Can you solve this case? Now, I just got a good feeling, y'all. Like, I can just feel it, man, that at the end of this freaking video, we gonna be left with, like, what the is going on. Like, at the end of this video, we are not gonna be able to solve this case. Like, we still gonna have questions. You know what I'm saying, man? I just got that bad feeling where this may be one of those unsolved mysteries. Long story short, story long. Even though the Coffee Man saying, can you solve this case? I think he is asking that because we not gonna be able to solve it. Like, we may know who the killer is, but it's gonna be certain details that we still gonna be wondering about. I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe I'm just thinking a little too hard about it. But we're about to see, my brothers and sisters. But before we see, my brothers and sisters, y'all know what y'all got to do. Get whatever you may need. Get what you need, please. Another The Coffee Man Friday. Y'all got what y'all need. Y'all ready to go? Then let's go.
When Houston PD were faced with the task of piecing together a nightmarish crime scene, they were left with this haunting surveillance footage. The man can be seen strolling up to an elevator, and 23 minutes later, he leaves the apartment complex just as calmly. But sadly, in this time frame, he had murdered 20-year-old Shelby Thornburg. Armed with this surveillance footage and other articles of evidence, detectives believed it would be easy to find her killer. But sadly, this was a meticulously rehearsed operation. So, who was Shelby Thornburg? Why was she targeted for murder? And will she ever receive justice? Welcome back to Coffeehouse Crime, folks. My name is Adrian, and today we're looking at a case that'll leave you thinking about it for days on end. Shelby Thornburg was a beautiful young woman starting her new life in the big city when, all of a sudden, tragedy stopped her in her tracks. But the terrifying thing is, you may actually know who the killer is. So, with that in mind, pay careful attention to the surveillance footage. By the way, Coffeehouse Crime is all about true crime, strange and chilling stories, and the best way to support me is by subscribing to the channel. So, if you want to see more stories like this, please do remember to subscribe. I also try to respond to most comments in the first hour of all videos going live, so if you want to catch me, hit the bell notification too. But before we begin, Nero and I would love to talk about this video's sponsor, Audible. Now,
That's the first time Coffee Man ever went straight into his commercial like that from what I can remember, y'all. And y'all mess with Audible, man. You know what I'm saying? Get that discount from the Coffee Man if y'all into that. But the main thing that the Coffee Man said, y'all, at the beginning, he was asking all those different questions. I don't feel like, okay, a lot of those questions may be answered in this video. But the one freaking question that he answered is, the one freaking question that I don't think go get answered is, where the is this person? Like, I'm starting to feel like this person never got caught, y'all. I don't know. Let's see. Get whatever you may need.
Welcome to Houston, folks. Known as the 4th largest city in the US, the energy capital of the world, and home to the largest medical complex in the world, Houston likes to pride itself on size, which is fitting for its extraordinarily large personality. This city's vibrancy is due to several factors. For one, it is one of the fastest growing cities in the country, bringing in an eclectic mix of various cultures. Now, America is well known to have an incredible food scene, but Texas really does like to push those boundaries. Jump in a car and travel 12 miles west on the I-69 from Houston Center, and you will find yourself in Sharpstown, a small neighborhood packed with noodle bars, dumpling houses, and many other Asian eateries. Back in the year 2015, Sharpstown was well known for its food, shopping, and arena theater. It's a great place for meeting up, sharing some good comfort foods, and having a friendly catch-up. However, by the dawn of November the 5th, the neighborhood woke up to a terrible story. At 9:54 p.m. on November the 4th, 2015, the Houston Police Department received a phone call from a devastated boyfriend. He called the police to report that his partner hadn't been responding to his messages. In light of her silence, he returned home to check in on her, and sadly, that is when he found her body in the living room. There was no doubt that this was no accident. His girlfriend had been murdered in cold blood. Police officers were dispatched to the property, where they then found a chaotic scene. A small single bed was set up in the living room next to the sofa. Here, they found the lifeless body of Shelby Thornburg slumped over the bed, and it was evident that she had suffered a violent end. A large 6-inch wound was observed horizontally across her neck. The wound had cut into her left jugular vein, punctured her left carotid artery, and extended through the soft tissue to her C3 and C5 vertebrae. And with such a violent and deep injury, it is no doubt that she had died from loss of blood. Shelby was naked and face down at the time that she died, with her lingerie found beside the bed, indicating that her murder was very likely to be sexually charged or motivated. And in addition to this, she also had multiple defense wounds on her hands, wrists, and shoulders.
Man, whoever did this, y'all, it's like they had a lot of hatreds in their heart. You know what I'm saying, man? Like they brutally murdered her, man. And one thing that I want to say, too, is about the boyfriend at the very beginning. You know how freaking horrible it is to not only already be thinking that your loved one may be in trouble to the point where they potentially are deceased. You know what I'm saying? You're not hearing from them. You're trying to get in contact. They not answering the phone. Wada. And then you actually get to the freaking house and you see them dead on the bed. Like, that is one of those feelings that I don't even think I could fully feel unless it happened to me. And Lord, please don't never let it happen to me. You know what I'm saying, man? Let's go.
Shelby's murder was sure to devastate the lives of all who knew her, but it wouldn't hit anyone more than her sister, Christina, for reasons we'll get into in just a moment. Christina couldn't believe the news when she heard it, and after receiving that phone call at 4 a.m. in the morning, she rushed to Houston to try and find her sister. It was only after she reached the apartment, saw the police, and then verified Shelby's ID that things really started to hit her. Her little sister had been murdered, and now there was no way back. Living in multiple places throughout her life, various people would come, leave, and remain in Shelby's circle. And of course, the police would review all of them in the months forward. But before we look at who her killer potentially is, let's first look at Shelby herself. Shelby was born on August 18th, 1995 in Wise County, Texas. She was the second and youngest daughter of her father, Robert, and mother, Leslie, and her older sister, Christina, completed the biological family of 4. Now sadly, both Shelby and Christina grew up in a broken home. For most of their younger childhood, their father, who by all counts sounds like a terrible human being, was in prison for unknown charges. As a result, her mother was left to look after 2 daughters, and while they initially shared a pleasant life together, she would sadly eventually slip into the world of drug addiction, meaning that more often than not, they were on the run from CPS. The damage caused to Shelby and Christina in their childhood was irreversible, and soon enough, her mother would lose custody of the 2. As a result, both sisters were in and out of foster homes quite frequently, and no surprise, the system would routinely fail them. Christina faced abuse from her foster carers, and when their monster of a father finally got out of prison, he made things even worse by abusing and renting out both of his 2 daughters.
Man, these 2 went through something as a child, y'all. Like, these 2 sisters, they went through something. And they the type of kids where the things that the adults were doing in their life from their daddy, not there. He in prison for doing all type of crazy, whatever he was doing. Their mama became a, I don't know, I don't want to say crack addict, but she became a dope fiend. You know what I'm saying? She was strung out on drugs to the point where the freaking CPS, the Child Protective Services, had to come and save these 2 kids. So now they get into foster care with some more adults, guardians, foster parents, and they abusing them. You know what I'm saying? So these the type of things that kids can go through early in their life will just make them just not even believe that no adults are actually good for them, actually care about them. You know what I'm saying, man? It's sad what they went through, but it looked like they made it through it, thank God. Let's go.
Traumatic moment in their lives created a very solid and inseparable bond between Christina and Shelby. With the world seemingly against them, they knew that they could at least rely on each other, and so it's no surprise that both girls became the best of friends. As the older sister, Christina took on a motherly role over Shelby, a kind and nurturing trait that, to this day, she still harbors. But focusing on Shelby, the stress and trauma she experienced in her younger years certainly did seem to cause some psychological damage. As a result, she battled depression throughout her childhood, and this depression ultimately forced her to lean on food for comfort. By her late teens, she had gained more than 300 pounds despite her small height of 5 feet and 1 inch. Which is fine, be whatever weight you'd like to be, but for Shelby, this did not correspond well with her aspirations. You see, Shelby wanted to become a model, and so with that goal in mind, she decided to set her sights on a radical weight loss journey. Now,
Holy effing F, my brothers and sisters. I did not realize that, like, I'm hearing the name Shelby, but I'm not realizing it's the same woman from the pictures that we were seeing when she was a lot bigger. You know what I'm saying? When she was carrying a lot more weight. She lost all that freaking weight. That is amazing in its own right. You know what I'm saying? That's shout out, salute, kudos, all that. Just for that, man. Wow. I was sitting right there like, hold on, this the same girl. Let's go.
Shelby's determination was absolutely solid. She began to diet correctly, go to the gym multiple times a week, and do plenty of cardio. And in less than 2 years, she managed to lose more than 180 pounds. A very impressive result for anyone on a personal weight loss journey. So, It is no surprise that Shelby found fresh confidence in her transformation, and there were plenty more reasons for her to be happy, as her weight loss journey was not the only thing going well for her. Around this time frame, she also decided to start a new life in the city and away from her demons. As a result, she moved into Conquistador apartment complex, which can be found on Bel Air Boulevard in Sharpstown. The high-rise was considered to be relatively luxurious at the time, and wasn't too far from the city centre. To add to this, and to tie everything together, Shelby had also found a boyfriend of sorts, a man named Marcus Dwayne Johnson.
Okay, my brothers and sisters. I felt like from the beginning of this freaking video that I was having deja vu, but I didn't want to mention it. I don't know when, I don't know where. It could have been 1 year ago. It could have been 1.5 years ago when we first started this our channel. But I have seen this before. I have seen this story before. That picture of them two together made me remember all of this, man. Like I'll just say it made me remember that I remember this story, but I still don't remember the details, y'all. Like I still don't know where we going, and it's probably gonna come to my head as we go. And I know some of y'all out there too probably have heard this story before because we love watching these type of stories, you know what I'm saying? And I knew I was having that deja vu moment earlier. And now I know that it's confirmed. It's confirmed. I have seen this story before. But let's keep on hearing the Coffee Man tell it. And like I said, he gonna help me remember more than I have. Let's go.
Sadly, this is where her story begins to unravel, but before we get there, I first have to tell you what she was planning to do next with her life, so you better understand her position. Now, Shelby was very happy with her weight loss, but as you can imagine, such a rapid transformation left her with some excess skin. With her aspirations of being a model, she felt she needed to remove that excess skin through surgery, and with surgery costing in the thousands, she needed to find the money first. And it turns out that Marcus was not actually her boyfriend. I mean, they may have had some sort of relationship to begin with, but now he was essentially her pimp. And as for that luxurious apartment that she was renting, well, it was actually part financed through him. Now, initially, her family had no idea what was going on behind the scenes. To them, she was in a committed relationship with Marcus, and although her sister would eventually find out, she was not comfortable with the situation. However, as you likely know, this sort of industry is extremely hard to get out of, and certainly not one that can happen just overnight. Shortly after moving to Houston and into this apartment complex, Shelby became a high-end escort, taking on male clients who would pay her for her services from the comfort of her own home. Now, Marcus would arrange all customers and appointments for her, taking a cut of the money for himself, which also helped to pay for the apartment. Unfortunately, this temptation to make good money from her escort services eventually led her to being arrested in 2014 over charges related to prostitution. And after being arrested for a second time later that year, her secret would slip out to the rest of her family. The news horrified many who knew and cared for her. And all the same, Shelby herself was scared to leave the industry that she was now stuck in. It wasn't the type of work that she wanted to remain in forever, but at least for now, it was a temporary means to an end. As we all
I just gotta speak on this real quick too, y'all. I know I'm pausing the video a lot in this one, man, but I just feel like talking to y'all in this video a lot. And I just gotta speak on this real quick, man. I just feel like no woman or male, but this mostly, you know, pertaining to women out here, should feel like they have to sell their body for money. You know what I'm saying, man? Like, now, there are women out here who do it, and that's what they want to do. I'm not even talking about those women. That's what you want to do with your body, do it. I mean, hey, it's your freaking body. You know what I'm saying? But I just feel sorry for the women who feel like that's the only thing they have to do to be able to take care of their bills, to be able to take care of their kids, to be able to freaking survive. That is where it gets sad to me, man, because a lot of these women who do this stuff, if they had the option, I put it to you this way, my brothers and sisters, and this probably will make it goddamn real simple. Long story short, short story long. If a woman who had $1 million, if a woman had $1 million, I just say her, because I'm thinking about her. Let's just say her particularly, in particular. If she had if she was a millionaire, she had $1 million+ dollars, she would never be doing this ish. You know what I'm saying? And maybe there are some rich escorts out here who could have been quit a long time ago. You know what I'm saying? Like top of the line. We can even say porn stars, all that. They got money. You know what I'm saying? But they still choose to do that. So different stroke for different folks. But I feel like a lot of people, and especially in this case, if she was a millionaire, she would never be doing none of this. Long story short, short story long. And it's just sad that they feel like they have to do it. Let's go.
No, this sort of work comes with a cocktail of risks and dangers. And her vulnerability was further propelled by the fact that she was bringing her clientele back to the same property she lived in. However, Shelby was stuck, and she had no way of leaving the industry, both for financial and safety reasons. And tragically, all of this would end in the worst way imaginable. So, what possibly could have happened to Shelby that night? Who was responsible for her death? And what were the clues left behind? To begin with the way that her body was found, it was likely that this happened either shortly before, during, or after consensual sex, meaning that her killer was likely a client. And so obviously, all eyes were on Marcus. After all, he was the one that would usually introduce her to all of her clients. The authorities were sure to grill him on several occasions, and I'm sure he went through hours of interrogation. But either way, he had no idea who her killer was. In fact, all communication was over the phone and not in person. As for Marcus himself, well, he had a rock-solid alibi. An alibi that was confirmed and approved after being meticulously scrutinized by authorities. And so, without any obvious suspects, detectives began to look into this case with a much finer lens.
Do y'all feel like Marcus got something to do with it? Like, at the very beginning of this video, the guy who was in that surveillance footage, that was clearly not Marcus. You know what I'm saying? But do you think he knew Marcus? Did Marcus know him? Did Marcus talk to him on the phone? Was it all planned out from the very beginning? You know what I'm saying? I don't know, y'all. I don't freaking know.
After carefully reviewing the crime scene, detectives concluded that the murder was very carefully planned and meticulously executed by her assailant. Despite being inside of the property for a generous amount of time, no fingerprints were left behind. And despite the rather intimate situation, no bodily fluids were left behind either. In fact,
and just to be clear real quick, when I was saying, like, was it all planned? I'm saying, was Marcus part of the plan? Because Coffee Man already said that, you know, the murder scene would look like it was meticulously planned out. But I'm wondering, do Marcus got something to do with it?
In fact, only one trace of DNA could be found at the crime scene. However, after running it through both local and national databases, the DNA yielded no conclusive results. But officers would find several other clues and articles of evidence that would help build a picture of her assailant. In fact, they were even fortunate enough to find surveillance footage of who they think murdered Shelby. Found within this surveillance footage, and at 8:34 PM, a man was spotted walking through the main lobby of the Conquistador. The man was white, wearing a light-colored jumper, shorts, trainers, and sunglasses. He can be seen walking calmly toward the elevators, before briefly sitting down at the end of the lobby. Interestingly, he can then be seen leaving the apartment complex 22 minutes later. Looking at videos from the hotel online, this is confirmed to be from the elevator door which led up to her apartment. It is noted that he is just as calm as before, and wearing the same clothes as when he entered. During this time frame, he kept his left hand in his pocket, suggesting that he may have been trying to hide a wound, or perhaps even a weapon. Furthermore, his body language leaves several suggestions behind. Although he appears to be calm, he can be seen with his head down at 8:57 minutes and 1 second, indicating either embarrassment or guilt. To add to this, hiding his hand in his pocket could also be an automatic gesture made through guilt or discomfort. Throughout his exit, he refuses to make eye contact with anyone to his left, and the sunglasses, which are on his face at almost 9 PM at night, makes it obvious that he didn't want anyone to recognize or remember his face. So, with all of this information at hand, detectives believed that they finally had a lead, and that eventually they would lock their sights on a suspect. Well, unfortunately, I have some bad news for you, because despite this happening almost 9 years ago, they still haven't found her killer. Yeah, this is one of those infuriating cases where, despite having surveillance footage of the killer's face and body, nothing has come from it.
I said it, my brothers and sisters, that I remember this case from somewhere, from one of our other favorite YouTube crime, true crime, horror, dark, deep, and mysterious, what is going on type of YouTubers, but I don't remember that part. Oh man, I told y'all, man. I told y'all at the beginning of this video, I just had that feeling like we was not gonna know something, man. And come to find out, we don't even know who the freak did it all these years later. Another freaking unsolved mystery. Let's go.
Hear him when he walked into the lobby have no idea who he was, and supposedly Marcus doesn't either. So let's look a little closer at that surveillance footage. But first, let me tell you what the authorities found on Shelby's phone. It was learned that throughout November the 4th, Shelby had been in contact with a man who had found her on Backpage. Now, Backpage was a website mainly known as a place where sex workers could advertise their services. Interesting side note here, but 3 former owners of the Backpage website were convicted last year for their roles in enabling prostitution and money laundering through the domain. The 4th co-founder, James Larkin, ended his own life before he could stand trial. Her advertisement, which was found by true crime YouTuber and journalist Gavin Fish, says that she was a blonde beauty who promised satisfaction. In and out calls were available, and her phone number was included on the advertisement. Now, interestingly, the man that she was in contact over that day was the same person to visit her that night. Focusing on the timeline, at 8 PM, Shelby's aunt messaged her to ask for a chat. Shelby responded with, "Can't talk right now, about to meet a client, I'm working." At 8:06 PM, Shelby's new client told her, "I'll be there in 20 minutes. 1 minute later, at 8:07 PM, she replied with, "Okay." At 8:33 PM, he then messaged her again to say, "Hey, I'm here." And only 1 minute later, at 8:34 PM, he was seen walking through the lobby while checking his phone. He then proceeded to sit at the back of the lobby, and although the surveillance footage that is available to the public then cuts out, we can only assume that he made it to Shelby's apartment. 6 minutes later, at 8:40 PM, Shelby then messaged Marcus to say good. Marcus later explained that this was code to indicate that everything was okay, and that Shelby was comfortable with her current client. This is crucial information to have, because it later indicates that everything was fine during the moment her killer entered the apartment. And this, in combination with no signs of forced entry, does suggest that her killer had deceived her into believing that he was just a regular behaving client. Unfortunately, Marcus would never hear back from Shelby after that. We know, due to the autopsy, that she was murdered shortly after this message, and only 17 minutes after indicating that everything was okay, her client calmly left the apartment complex, never to be seen again. After failing to respond to any of his messages, Marcus then travelled back to her apartment before finding her lifeless body shortly before 10 PM.
And I'm starting to get a little upset now, y'all. I'm starting to get a little angry, man. And the reason being is because I'm just sitting back thinking about whoever did this, because we still don't know who did it. For all I know, he could be watching me right now. And I'm not saying that to be funny. I'm saying that to be for real, man. Like, that person, whoever did this to this lady, to Shelby, could be out there anywhere. And that's the part that pisses me the fuck off, man. Just the fact that he's still walking freely. For all we know, it could be anywhere, my brothers and sisters. It's more people than you think that have committed murder that are still walking amongst us than we probably realize. Let's go.
At this point in their investigation, the authorities firmly believed that they would eventually catch her killer. I mean, surveillance footage aside, they now had a phone number too. However, her killer clearly knew what he was doing, because not only had he purchased it shortly before her murder, but he'd also bought it in cash and without any personal details attached. In short, it was a burner phone, and now there was no way for the authorities to track him down. To add to this, the phone was destroyed almost immediately after the murder too, being turned off, never to be used again. And so, in short, it was almost impossible to know who it belonged to. All of this evidence highly suggests that Shelby's killer was acting with clear intent to murder her, and a flawless plan to evade the authorities. And sadly, it gets even worse. It turns out that, in the weeks prior to Shelby's murder, this guy had been reaching out to other sex workers in the area, and they all seemed to fit Shelby's profile too, being both blonde and petite. This means that he was clearly out to murder someone and had even specified a path for it, What's more, it looks like Shelby's murder wasn't personal. Now, there are plenty of rumors and even valid theories to suggest that maybe Shelby was targeted, either for herself or to get back at Marcus, but at least this article of evidence would suggest otherwise. Once again focusing on our surveillance footage, it's incredibly frustrating to know so many visual details about Shelby's killer without any success in finding him. We're all used to looking at surveillance footage that looks like it was recorded with a potato. But this camera was pretty high quality for 2015. I mean, we have the killer's face, jawline, hairline, color complexion, gait, and even more. Now, due to his physique and his posture, it is safe to assume that he was in good shape. This has led some to believe that he may be in the military or law enforcement. But sadly, no one has been able to identify him through any of these images. And the use of image enhancement and even AI hasn't helped either. The way that her murder was so meticulously conducted has also led many to believe that Shelby may have been the victim of a serial killer. Now, it is plausible, though many have highlighted that no other victims have been identified in the area. One other and more likely theory is that Shelby may have been targeted for murder by a hitman. It is noted that in the weeks leading up to her death, she had grown increasingly scared for her safety and her future. After being arrested for prostitution twice in the same year, she knew that she had to find a new way of earning money. Unfortunately, it is an incredibly difficult industry to leave due to various power complexities often found between escorts and their pimps. I mean, in June 2015, Shelby was arrested. In November, she was murdered. And in December, a substantial undercover operation caused the arrest of more than 20 escorts and pimps in the local area. And so, with so much tension in the industry at the time of her death, it is possible that Shelby was chosen to take the hit and assassinated by a hitman to save others from being arrested. Her sister believes that she may have been an informant for officers at the time of her death, which of course would have placed a massive target on her back if others knew about it.
That's a hell of a theory, man. And I just can't dismiss it, man. It's very possible that she probably was an informant. You know what I'm saying? And dealing with that stuff, the prostitution game, escort, pimps, and hoes, I'm just gonna say it. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to her, but y'all get what I'm saying, man. That whole game is just like the drug dealer game. It's just like the drug game, man. It's so many different moving parts, so much stuff going on. You dealing with law enforcement and you dealing with the streets. You dealing with lies and you dealing with truths. But most of the time, the lies gonna always overshadow the truth. You know what I'm saying? And then we talking about stuff that's illegal, which just make it that much more worse with what we dealing with. So it's just sad, man. Rest in peace to Shelby, though, y'all. I just would feel so much better if we at least knew who did it. Let's go.
Despite all of the evidence available and the many theories that circulate around this case, Shelby's killer still remains free to this day. Now, before I finish this case, there is one other issue to talk about, and unfortunately, it rests with law enforcement. After her death, Shelby's sister was faced with the horrific task of cleaning up the crime scene, and tragically, she would be the one to wipe her sister's blood off the floor and wall. It was during her cleanup that she noticed several items that should have been taken in as evidence. Most notably, the doormat outside of the property. With the hallways being so dimly lit, it was quite difficult to see what may or may not have been on that doormat. However, after taking it back to her own home, she noticed it had a red patch on it. But after calling the Houston Police Department to tell them that there might be blood on the doormat, they told her that it was now too late to submit as evidence. Advice that would actually turn out to be incorrect. Although it isn't—
What they mean it's too late? It's never a time that's too late to submit some evidence that could potentially lead us to who the freak murdered somebody. What the f—
And clear what that red stain was, Christina firmly believes it was blood. And with her killer walking away with a concealed hand, likely because it may have been injured, this might have actually solved the case. Now, although it is true that any DNA match coming from the doormat would have been disqualified as admissible evidence in court, it could have potentially helped track her killer down. What can I say? This is yet another example where miscommunication inside law enforcement has potentially jeopardized a case. Now, as you—
Exactly, man. Like I'm saying, man, like I get it that you talking about it's too late as far as there may be a lot of other DNA on that floor mat or whatever by now or whatever, but I just feel like I don't care, man. Any and everything that you could use to possibly help solve this case, you should take that into account and take it seriously. I don't know, y'all. That's just wrong to me. Let's go.
Usual, these mistakes come down to a lack of training, but by the time they are realized, it is simply too late. No doubt, Shelby had an incredibly rough upbringing, only saved from oblivion by her gentle and nurturing sister. Christina is everything a sister could ask for, but even still, she couldn't save Shelby from a challenging industry's worst nightmare. It's important to remember here that Shelby was much more than just a sex worker. It is quite natural, but us humans love to categorize and label people as a means to better understand and perceive others. However, one problem with that is that it often clouds our perception and judgment of people. Shelby was a very loving, kind, and generous person, and friends and family describe her as funny, loving, and caring. Despite coming from a childhood that would destroy most of us, Shelby emerged to be ambitious, determined, and resilient. Quite clearly, she was a strong woman who wouldn't let anything get in the way of what she wanted. But tragically, bad fortune would find her towards the end of her long and difficult journey. Her unsolved murder haunts her family to this very day. This surveillance footage undoubtedly plays on repeat in the minds of her loved ones, when, in reality, all we need is for everyone to see this footage just once. Somebody out there knows something. Time may fade your memory, and it may even help cleanse a guilty conscience. But the nightmare, pain, and anguish that Christina and the rest of Shelby's family feel is never ending, and so, hopefully, one day, a stranger will help them finally be at peace. A $5,000 reward is available for any information leading to Shelby Thornburg's killer. Contact Crime Stoppers at 713-222-TIPS. That's 713-222-8477. If you believe you may know Shelby's killer, or simply know anything that may help solve this case, then I strongly advise you give them a call. Seriously folks, I've covered hundreds of cases and researched thousands more, and let me tell you, it is never too late to solve a case. And you know, the infuriating thing about this story is that this one is actually solvable. All we need is the right person to see that surveillance footage. Now, before I wrap this one up, I want to give an honourable mention to Gavin Fish, who has tirelessly worked with Shelby's sister to bring this case to the public. If you're looking for brilliant research and journalism, then I thoroughly recommend you check out his YouTube channel. Anyway folks, I think that pretty much concludes our story today. Thank you so much for being here and for making it this far in the video. I really do appreciate your company. And thanks again to Audible for sponsoring today's video. Go to audible.com/coffeehousecrime or text coffeehousecrime to 500 for your free trial. Before I go, just a quick reminder that if you want to support the channel, then you can check out my Patreon here. You get early access to my videos and additional content too. Or alternatively, if you'd like some deliciously vibrant coffee, then check out my own brand, Classified. Furthermore, if you'd like to follow me and Nero on our adventures, then check out my social media, most notably my Instagram. Otherwise, that is it for me today. Once again, thank you so much for being here, I really do appreciate it. I'll see you again in a few days, but until that moment arrives, remember to look after yourself, look after each other, and of course, stay safe. Thank you, and goodbye.
Another great video from the Coffee Man, my brothers and sisters. But I had that gut feeling from the beginning, man. I'm like, man, I don't know, man. I just feel like at the end of this video, we gonna be left with a lot of questions. And Jesus Christ, man, the worst question ever. You know what I'm saying? The question is, who the freak did it, man? And I just feel like it pisses me off the fact that whoever did it still could be walking amongst us to this day. You know what I'm saying? It's just so freaking terrible, man. And I feel bad for her, just even from a little child and her sister growing up to adult, all the stuff they had to deal with as a child. Then she becomes an adult and now she feel like she is forced to be an escort or a prostitute or whatever may have you in this whole situation that she in. There are so many freaking theories that we can throw out there as far as what really happened to her or what could have potentially happened to her. I feel like the freaking police kind of have dropped the ball with the whole floor mat thing, the DNA thing, you know what I'm saying? They could have been a lot more serious about that situation, and who knows? That's why I'm saying, man, they should take all that stuff serious, because who knows, that could have potentially helped solve this freaking murder, man. It's just, oh my God, my brothers and sisters, another sad story, man. And I'm telling y'all, I know that we have watched something about Shelby before. I don't remember who channel it was. I don't know if it was Dial Trip, the Lazy Man, Lazy Masquerade, or who, but I remember hearing this, man. And the Coffee Man just did an amazing job, and he helped remind me of what really went on in this story. And the saddest part is, it's still freaking unsolved to this day. But and like the Coffee Man was saying too, man, if it just take that one person to see that surveillance footage, and maybe they can identify who the freak that guy was or is or whatever. But I digress. I'm gonna go and let y'all go now, man. I feel like we have been here long enough, my brothers and sisters. I appreciate y'all coming on back for another Coffee Man Friday. Y'all please, 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 please hit that like button, comment, subscribe if you ain't did that yet. And I'll see you tomorrow. Once again, my friends. But until then, you gotta remember this. Love, peace, and happiness. Stay safe. Don't stop. Keep going. Yeah.